Hello, welcome to our channel once again. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for coming. It's the 10th of July. Can you believe it? It's almost getting into August. That just blows my mind. Where has the year gone? Anyway, welcome to the smartest, most intelligent, most active audience on the planet. You are the ones that make things happen. The dollar is falling and it can't get up. No, it just can't seem to get up. A little bit about that, but first a note from our advertisers. I had no idea till I read this how in-depth savings programs were with Noble Gold. This is fascinating. Here's the truth. Your 401k was never designed to make you wealthy. It was created by a corporate boardroom to shift retirement costs and investment risk. Boy, that's true. When you invest in a company investment program and then retire, all those fees start to get added on. You make no interest. It's insane. And so the 401k was designed not to make you money. They keep flipping your stock over and over and over again. Most of the people with the 401ks I know aren't making money. Until now, Americans are taking back control of their 401ks by converting it to a gold or silver asset. Now, if you're single, you can call Noble Gold. Sorry, whatever they're spraying us with is really bad. So you can convert your 401k or any IRA into gold and silver, and you can even have it stored in their vault, which is insured. So if the federal government decides it wants to take gold and silver back, it's fully insured. Don't worry about it. And it's in a non-flood zone, I might add. And you're going to have to call Noble Gold, 877-646-5347, and they will peel your retirement out of the hands of the people who are handling it. You see, what's happening is your retirement, when it's in an IRA or a 401k, is held by some kind of an investment company that's owned by a bank, and they do not want you. They don't want you to give up. They don't want to give up that 401k. They want to maintain control, because the more they roll over your stocks, the more money they make. So talk to Noble Gold today. The team, it's really easy to talk to these people. They also have a very good, very informative, very suppressed YouTube channel, Noble Gold Investments. They give out more information on Noble Gold Investments than I've ever seen. And they give it to you freely on Noble Gold Investments on YouTube. So I call them. We invest with them. They can't steal it from us. They don't roll over our stock. They've stolen my Coinbase. They've stolen my private investments. They've stolen my stocks because I say things they don't like. So anyway, on to the news in Los Angeles. They have a 450-foot deep tunnel at the port, 450 feet down. Now here's the water around it, up 10 feet, and they went down 450 feet saying wastewater disposal. I don't think so. They just dump it into the bay. The underground, there was a major collapse trapping 15 people. They have over 100 firemen up there. They're trying to rescue these 15 people. What's happening? As the earth begins to shift to and fro because we've eliminated the water, so the weight on the soil is much less. And so we've also taken out a lot of oil, which is causing the land to go down. So the oil pressure kept the land up. Now the land is beginning to sink. We've also put tons of cement on beaches, and they're sinking. So what's happening is the underground bases are beginning to collapse. It says in the Bible that people will cry out, "Oh God, let the underground bases fall on me." They are. They're beginning to collapse under their own weight. So, and it's so bad, we've changed the water structure here in Washington State that Mount Rainier is beginning to shake real heavily. A couple of nights ago, it shook, and on the 4th, it shook. It was the night of the 3rd that it shook, because I felt it. And so Mount Rainier is beginning to rumble again. We'll see where that leads to. And 6 Secret Service agents were arrested. They weren't arrested for their attempt on Trump in July 2024. They were arrested for their attempt on Trump on July 5th, where the Coast Guard ex-sniper was working for the Secret Service, 3 Secret Service and 2 FBI agents. to whack Trump, they arrested the Coast Guard, the ex-Coast Guard officer sniper. You don't have officer sniper, so the story was suspect to begin with. The bottom line is, they don't arrest a person 13 months later for trying to kill the president. They arrested him yesterday, which would have been 4 or 5 days. Let's see, it's the 10th, so they arrested him on the 8th. They tried to kill Trump on the 5th, so they arrested him 3 days later. Now, why don't they arrest Ilmar Omar for being an illegal alien? Because she's one of the actors in the fake Congress. She's not even a citizen. Ted Cruz wasn't a citizen until 2016, and he was serving in the Senate. You don't think that's illegal? That's even illegal in the 1871 Constitution. We are a rogue nation, not even obeying our own laws. So, a little bit about RFK. If RFK was real, if he was really going to do something, if Kennedy actually was going to do something, if President Trump was actually going to make America healthy again, not make America great again. MAGA means witch in Latin. It's also the third level. There's 5 levels of witchcraft in Satanism. Mega is the third. Doc Marquis was a mega witch. Mega means witch in Latin. MAGA. If he was going to make America healthy again, don't you think he would ban canola oil, MSG, propylene glycol, and fluoride, and lithium-ion powered cars which leak lithium? So you breathe it, become mellow, and your metabolism slows down and you get fat, just like fluoride, which is as toxic as lead. MSG, which turns off your appetite control center. Canola oil, which shuts your liver down and makes you fat. And propylene glycol, you feed to cattle to make them fat so you can sell them on the market for more money. Don't you think President Trump would have banned canola oil, MSG, propylene glycol, and fluoride? You wonder why Americans are so fat, but you go to Europe and you lose 30 pounds within a week? Because you're not eating canola oil or MSG or propylene glycol or fluoride. And a little bit overseas, the United States has spent another $100 billion on Ukrainian weapons because we want peace, so we're going to send them guns. Ukraine fired on Russia during the Christian Day of Family Love, and they killed somebody on the beach, and the child died. Over 30% wounds on their body. They showed it all over Russian TV. Russia responded in the last 2 days with about 1,100 drones, which they're making now about 1 million a year. So they can throw about 30,000 a day at the Ukraine. In the meantime, the United States is spending $4 or $5 million per Patriot missile to shoot down a drone. They're not smart enough to use a microwave cannon. They don't have those mounted on tanks. They don't have those mounted on Bradleys. They're not that smart. The people in the Pentagon are stupid. They're really stupid. Anyway, they could find the frequencies of the Russian drones, and every drone has a different frequency, and block it with a massive cannon run by our giant engines on the M1 tanks and the Bradleys. But they're just not that smart. We've got the dumbest people in the Pentagon. I wargamed against them. They are just freaking stupid. There's no other term for it. They follow Satan. They do the human rituals, and they climb the ranks because they're a Satanist, and they're just not smart. Anyway, so they fired over 1,100 drones at the Ukraine. Man, Russia's going to start firing 1,000 drones a day at the Ukraine. When a recruitment center was blown up in Kiev, people cheered because they go out and they pull people off the streets. They're trying to get all the Ukrainians from the United States back to Russia. So what does Trump do? Again, we're going to have peace. We're going to send Ukraine more guns. I don't understand. So Trump says we're going to put a 600% tariff on anybody who trades with Russia. So what's Russia's response? BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, which has fallen apart and kicked all the whites out. Why they're in the BRICS nations, I don't know. The Chinese economy has fallen. The German economy is collapsing. All across Europe, the economies are collapsing. Why is that important? Because when the euro falls, the dollar will fall. The euro will go down, then the dollar will go down. So all across Europe, their economies are falling because of the welfare for the illegal aliens. Same in America, 40 million people out of that 36 million are on welfare. I think it's 90% are on welfare. And you, the American workers, have to support them. Free medical, free dental. I can't even get dental out of the VA because I refuse their antipsychotic drugs, but they give it to the illegal aliens, and a lot of them smoke dope. They use the illegal drugs so they can get free health care, I guess. I don't know. So now the BRICS have 50% of the world's population, 40% of the world gross domestic products, and almost half of the world oil production. And they're trading in BRICS currencies, not the US dollar. Over half of the world's GDP is now trading outside the dollar. Over half of the world is trading outside the US dollar. The G7 now controls only 30% of the gross domestic product of the world, not 50%. It only controls a quarter of the oil production, not 50%. And it only makes up about 8% of the world population, not 50%. The US dollar is what runs the G7 nations. Germany and France are making private deals with China to trade outside the US dollar, so that will bring the G7 down to not 30% of the gross domestic product, but about 20% of the gross domestic product will be traded using dollars. Now, why is that important to you and I? Because ain't nobody buying our bonds. And if nobody's buying our bonds, we're just making money up out of thin air. And as we make money up out of thin air, prices go up. Right now, according to the latest receipt, we're 31 times higher than when I was a child. Actually, it's close to 40 times higher than when I was a child. Groceries have skyrocketed. If you get food without fattening propylene glycol, without fattening canola oil, without fattening MSG, without fattening fluoride, it's now about 60 times higher than when I was a kid. But if you want to be fat, I just had something from some organic company that claims canola oil is organic. Well, it was genetically modified. But I guess if it's genetically modified, RFK can classify it as natural and organic because he refuses to get rid of these fattening agents. Somebody from Big Pharma paid somebody else to stop RFK and the president from eliminating these fattening chemicals from American food. And so as the Chinese economy collapses, as the U.S. economy collapses, I want you to consider this. 1772, Britain had an economic collapse leading to the American Revolution in 1775. In 1810, the U.S. had a horrible economic collapse leading to the 1812 to 14, the war with England. In 1832, there was a massive Mexican depression leading to the invasion of Texas and Texas breaking away from Mexico. In 1842, we had a major downturn in the economy leading to the war with Mexico in 1845. Conflict. In 1858, there was 1858, there was a massive economic collapse and a panic leading 2 years later to the American Civil War. In 1890, there was a massive depression leading to the 1898 conflict with Spain, the Spanish-American War, where the United States took Cuba and Spain and eventually gave Cuba over to the communists because we needed an enemy, because we needed to boost arms sales. And then in 1910, there was a major economic foobar in the United States leading to the Balkan conflict in 1912, leading to World War II in 1914, which was ended when the American troops landed in 1918 after being fed aspirin, which robs your body of vitamin C, and they all were sick, and then the plague spread to the Germans. That was an American attempt to end the conflict by killing American soldiers. It worked. And after WW2, we had the post-WW2 massive depression. World War I. We were going fine till the 20s, then a massive depression. Herbert Hoover stood in the stock market, the Dow Jones, and told the satanic representative head of the Lucifer Trust, "You can't make a depression. Our economy's going too strong." 1929. And Lucifer raised his hands and the stocks fell. And he went, "Oh, I guess you can. Yeah, you were a Satanist and Lucifer showed it to you." And then after WW2, massive depression because everybody was laid off because we didn't need B-29s and P-51 fighters and bombers and bombs. And so there was a massive post-WW2 depression. So they started the Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe using the American taxpayer dollars, which they made up out of thin air. We were printing our money at the time, by the way. The United States was still printing their dollar bills. They're not being like today, they're printed in China and Japan. We don't even have the gold to buy the dollars they're printing in China. So that's right, they print up a stack of hundreds. It cost a couple of pieces of silver, and we don't even have the silver to give China. It's all gone to the space program. Just like Psaki said, we have a galactic space program. She was she worked for Biden. She was the press secretary. She talked about the galactic starships. She made a slip on that one. Anyway, so in the 1950s, we had a massive downturn which led to the Korean conflict. And then there was the post-Korean conflict downturn in the late 1950s, which led to the Vietnam conflict. And then after Vietnam, everything started to slow down. So what did we do? We invaded Iraq. Then 9/11. Then another conflict to boost weapons sales. Everybody knows about that. So now what's happening is the German economy, they've spent too much money on welfare. 25% of their population is illegal. Over 25 million illegal aliens in Germany, all collecting welfare. In France, over 20 million illegal aliens, all collecting welfare. In England, London is nothing but Muslim black immigrants collecting welfare. The system is falling in on itself. So what do the elitist Rothschilds order? The Octagon Group, what do they order? Massive world conflict. Because the euro's about to fall. Germany and France are making special deals with the BRICS nations, and the G7 again is going to shrink to less than 25% of the world's economy. They're going to make special deals using the French franc, the Italian lira, and the German Deutschmark, which are still sold on the open market. And the British pound, they're making special deals with China because they can no longer support their immigrant welfare system. So what happens when we have a depression? Where do they lead us? The time machine as he spun the rings. This is the 326th year of the war between the East and the West. Nobody knows why it started. The air is too toxic to breathe, and the last oxygen-producing facility has just shut down. Some of us will take chances above the ground, and some of us will take chances below the ground. Only unfortunately, you can't take a chance below the ground because as the earth begins to shake and twist, because we've sucked the oil out of it and caused the weight and pressure in certain areas to change, and because we've sucked the Midwest dry, Iran's dry, Iraq's dry, because the rivers are now dried up and the water level's getting so low, even in Pakistan and India, as NASA continues to use NOAA and stretch its wings to control the weather around the world, we're headed to a massive conflict, just like Lucifer said. Uranus has entered Gemini, and that means a massive world conflict, like the 6-Year War, the 100 Years' War, WW2, Civil War, etc., etc., etc. So, folks, the dollar is dying, And the only option you have, because when the euro falls and Trump has to lower the value of the dollar by at least 30% to hit the world trade. Otherwise, we can't trade anything because it's too expensive. So he's raising the tariffs, devaluing the dollar. Your dollar is becoming more and more worthless. And the only option is gold and silver, because as your 401ks flatten out, and as your stock portfolios flatten out, not because the stocks aren't going up, because they keep swapping it illegally, you have one option, gold and silver. God bless. Thank you very much. I love Noble Gold, by the way. They're some great people. Not only do they have integrity, because I've gotten to know them over the last decade, but I just like working with them. They're kind of a fun group to work with, and they always tell the truth, which blows my mind for a gold trader. They always tell them the truth. God bless. Thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow.